Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're heading out on this incredibly vibrant, almost kawaii-inspired journey, bridging two worlds you'd probably never expect to see together. We're looking at how we can navigate complex, sometimes really rigid systemic healthcare challenges, but doing it by using the lively, colorful tools of everyday pop culture to build up our own personal resilience. Just imagine taking these heavy academic concepts and wrapping them in the kind of sparkling enthusiasm you'd find in your absolute favorite weekend cartoon or comic book. That's exactly what we're doing today. We're breaking down some serious barriers to understanding how our minds work, and we're doing it in a way that's accessible, empowering, and just, well, brilliantly creative. Let's get right into the first question, because it honestly might just stop you in your tracks. What does Pokémon have to do with the Danish healthcare system? It creates this instant sense of cognitive dissonance, doesn't it? On one hand, you have this rigid, highly structured, bureaucratic system responsible for the medical care of millions of citizens. And on the other hand, you've got a globally beloved pop culture franchise all about colorful creatures, adventure, and catching them all. It feels like a total paradox. But as we explore the source material today, you're going to see exactly how these lively pop culture metaphors are being used to decode and survive within those very rigid bureaucratic systems. It's a delightful, brilliant contrast, and it completely sets the stage for a massive educational mission. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, The Mission, 1,000 Neuroscience Videos. The foundation of this entire project is an incredibly ambitious educational mission anchored right in the heart of Copenhagen. 1,000. It's a truly monumental number, right? The creator behind this initiative isn't just making a handful of quick tutorials. They're attempting to build an absolute monolith of accessible knowledge. They're on a massive, dedicated quest to produce exactly 1,000 videos. And the core focus of every single one of these, neuroscience, trauma, and resilience. Think about the sheer dedication required to distill that much complex scientific information into bite-sized visual formats. This isn't just casual content creation. It's a dedicated curriculum designed to map out the human nervous system for anyone who needs to understand it. But to understand why this massive mission is even necessary, we have to look at the environment that triggered it in the first place. And that brings us to Section 2, the systemic critique, Diagnostic Limbo. The foundation of this project stems from a sharp, strictly impartial critique of the delays within the Danish healthcare system. Looking at the source material impartially, it outlines a clear, systemic problem regarding the delayed implementation of a new diagnostic framework called the ICD-11. The source presents this delay not just as a minor administrative hiccup, but as a rigid barrier with severe real-world consequences for the patients navigating the system. According to the source, this systemic delay creates 4 distinct points of agitation. First, it costs billions. The financial strain of an outdated system is massive. Second, it creates a state of diagnostic limbo for patients. Third, it forces the system to rely on temporary emergency codes rather than accurate updated classifications. And fourth, the current outdated system completely overlooks social masking. That's when individuals, very often neurodivergent people, hide their natural traits and struggles to fit into societal expectations. By missing this, the system fails to see the true clinical picture of the patient. These 4 points combined create a massive structural roadblock. So, the crucial point is this: diagnostic limbo. I want you to really focus on those words for a second. The source highlights this exact phrase to describe the trapped state that patients experience. They're stuck waiting. They're caught between an old system that doesn't accurately recognize their needs, especially regarding things like that social masking we just mentioned, and a delayed new system, the ICD-11 framework, that just isn't fully operational yet. This limbo leaves people without the proper vocabulary, the recognition, or the support they desperately need from the healthcare infrastructure. And, when the macro system leaves people in limbo, individuals are forced to find their own tools to understand what they are going through. Which brings us to Section 3, Pop Culture as a Pedagogical Tool. If the traditional system is delayed, how do we bridge that educational gap? Well, we use the fast visual language of pop culture. Pop culture isn't just for entertainment here. It's an active pedagogical tool. It takes the heavy, intimidating concepts of trauma and neuroscience and turns them into something you already know exactly how to engage with. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how that translation works. On the left side, we have a Pokéball. In the context of neuroscience, this represents the tool you use to capture data about your own nervous system. You notice a trigger, a feeling, a reaction, and boom, you capture that data point like catching a Pokémon. Then we have the Pokédex. In the game, a Pokédex categorizes and explains the Pokémon you've caught. So here, the Pokédex serves as the metaphor for the new diagnostic system.
It's how you organize, name, and understand the internal data you've just captured. It literally takes an abstract clinical process and makes it a vivid, structured, and manageable mental exercise.
But the pop culture metaphors don't stop with Pokémon. The source material also brings in television. Now, for those familiar with the show Community, you know the character Abed Nadir. The source explicitly defines Abed here strictly as the ultimate symbol of hyper-advanced survival and meta-awareness. For individuals navigating complex, unaccommodating systems, like that diagnostic limbo we discussed earlier, Abed represents the ability to read the room, understand the systemic structures at play, and use a deep meta-level awareness to survive and adapt. He's essentially the mascot for observing the chaos of the system without being entirely consumed by it. Moving on to Section 4, Practical Tool, Your Inner Radar. Let's bring the focus right down to you, taking this from those macro-level systems to a practical tool you can actually use every single day. The whole point of the 1000 video mission is to give you a practical, micro-level tool, which the source refers to as your inner radar. Let's move to and see how this builds into a concrete action plan. The process outlines 3 clear steps for personal nervous system regulation. Step 1. Test via your inner radar. This is all about checking in with yourself, using that meta-awareness to scan your internal state and capture the data, just like using that Pokéball. Step 2. Regulate the nervous system. Once you actually have the data and understand your current state, you apply strategies to calm and center your nervous system. Step 3. Build solid resilience. By repeating this process of testing and regulating, you aren't just surviving a random moment of stress, you're actively constructing long-term solid resilience against future systemic or personal shocks. It's a highly structured, self-empowering loop. Which brings us to our final thought. The systems around us may be slow, and they may occasionally leave us in a diagnostic limbo, but the tools to understand your own mind and build your own strength are available right now. And they're as accessible as the pop culture you already know and love. So how will you use your inner radar to capture data and build resilience today? Are you going to throw a mental Pokeball at your next stressor? Will you channel your inner Abed Nadir to navigate a tricky situation? The tools are right there in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope you leave today feeling a little more empowered to explore your own nervous system.